Move on then to 15-minute cities, or 20-minute neighbourhoods in this case.
Well, yes, the two phrases are somewhat identical, somewhat synonymous. The one that's running in Scotland is 20-minute neighbourhoods, and it's everywhere. So here we see an organisation called ClimateXChange, Scotland's Centre of Expertise connecting climate change research and policy. They're one of the leading voices in this. They've done a report on the 20-minute neighbourhoods in a Scottish context. Executive summary says the programme for government 2020 commits the Scottish Government to working with local governments and other partners to take forward ambitions for 20-minute neighbourhoods, places that are designed so residents have the ability to meet the vast majority of their day-to-day needs within a 20-minute walk 800 metres of their home, through access to safe walking, cycling routes or by public transport. So that's what it's about. The report goes into more detail. So the main findings are Scotland has the opportunity to be a capitalised global leader in delivering this concept. It's always about being a global leader. We're all vying to be the most compliant with the international policy. It's very interesting. Every neighbourhood, so there can be no exception, so everyone must comply, should be facilitated, particular pet hate of mine, that word, to be a 20-minute neighbourhood. Communities should be capitalised, empowered to make changes, only in the appropriate direction because it's centrally controlled. You know, every neighbourhood must do this. This concept should enable people to travel actively in support of their health. No more cars for you. And a 20-minute neighbourhood concept should be the ambition that pulls together all other relevant policies. So this is the key concept. This is going to change society. This is how we're going to do it. And it uses 5 dimensions to capture this. They've done a study that uses 5 dimensions to capture the features and infrastructure and quality of services that make up the 20-minute neighbourhood. Stewardship, civic movement, resources and spaces. And there's not any clear definition of these things. And there's a lot of overlap, as is always the case. When we get to recommendations, they're going to use the 4th National Planning Framework to rationalise and coordinate the policy landscape to support the delivery of the concept. So it's going to be imposed through the planning framework, through planning law, which has always been a vehicle by which our rights and freedoms have been infringed. It's a kind of stealthy vehicle. There's going to be a greater emphasis on reducing private car journeys, so we're going to continue the war on the car. And the concept and framework and funding will be designed at a national level, so it's going to be centrally controlled. Now, there's a few interesting diagrams in this report. The next one we have here shows the main things are, well, we've got quality of services and experience, whatever that means, features and infrastructure, and engagement and behaviour change. Well, we're going to have behaviour change. There's a surprise. Because our behaviour is the problem. With some more diagrams here, it's interesting to note that the outcomes of this are going to be not improved health, no, decreased health inequalities. A very interesting concept. Why would they not say improved health?
Does that mean, sorry, David, does decreased health inequalities mean everybody gets to die at the same rate?
Yes. Yes, equal dying, equal rights for dying and being ill. You're going to be ill at the same rate. You can't be well. You can't be well compared to other people. That would be unfair. Improved local economy. The key word there is local, right? We're not going to improve the economy overall. Improved local economy. Improved livability. More on that term later. And of course, climate action, because this is all about global warming. We've also got place and well-being outcomes. Well-being famously is the term they can't define. Broadly means happiness, but no one really knows. And the expert in well-being famously said, well-being's not a beach you can lie on. So I hope that clarifies things for you. My own local authority, Perth and Kinross, they're entirely on board with this, of course, enthusiastically backing it. And they're talking about the values or the golden thread through all their democratic governance plans. Such highfalutin language didn't used to be associated with local authorities, or the council as they were known, but now they're talking about democratic governance plans. And the golden thread is sustainability and fairness, 2 words from the Marxist lexicon that don't mean what you think. More on that in extra time, I suspect. The people pushing this and leading this in Scotland include Marte Bergseng, who is a Norwegian lady, and she works for the Edinburgh Climate Change Institute. She's been an eco-activist for at least a decade, and she's leading this charge in Scotland. So it's climate change, which is, of course, based on a lie, that is the justification for doing this at all. But it's been kind of overlapped with, well, you're going to be happier. You will own nothing and be happy, kind of being developed at a local level here. So I was looking into the background of this. Where did the 20-minute neighbourhood concept come from? And lo and behold, Portland, Oregon. There's a surprise. Portland, Oregon was ground zero for this concept. So here we have Chaim Simon, a thesis from University of Washington last year. He's a thesis for his Master of Urban Planning. So he's been looking into this 20-minute neighbourhood, and he writes the city of Portland, Oregon, set a goal for 90% of its residents to live within a 20-minute neighbourhood back in 2009, part of a broader effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and mitigate climate change. So this is nothing to do with people. This is to do with the global warming myth and the use of essentially fraudulent scientific predictions or fraudulent political prescriptions coming from at least dodgy science or poorly understood science to promote changes in society that are driven from a political basis, nothing actually to do with the climate. So it's all based on this core deception. So he writes, 20-minute neighbourhoods and similar schemes, such as 15-minute city, follow a century-long tradition of planning cities that are accessible for walking. And he talks about Clarence Perry, a planner who wrote in the 1920s about community-centred development. And he writes, at the same time he's publishing his ideas, Le Corbusier created a vision of a section city that prioritised movement by car between zones. Now, which idea triumphed? Well, it was Le Corbusier, right? The planning law in this country and in the United States since the 1930s have been zoning us in so that you live in one area, you work in a different one, the two don't mix, and you commute by car. That was their policy. They pushed this for the best part of a century, and the same people who created this are now turning around saying this was a terrible mistake. We don't want to be doing that. That's all wrong. You need to listen to us. In the 1990s, the thesis continues. In the 1990s, an alternative design was outlined by the Congress of New Urbanism. New urbanism favours cities that are mixed use, dense, and with a range of housing types, right? Mixed use, dense, with a range of housing types. That describes how cities used to be before Le Corbusier. So new urbanism is in fact old urbanism. I hope you're following this. And we then get to livability. We mentioned livability as part of the goals in Scotland. We're going to increase livability. Excellent. What does livability mean? Livability, as used by urban planners, is without a specific definition. There is no clear understanding of what the term livable means. So there we go. Once again, they're defining things that sound plausible but have no substance. So it all started in Portland, 2009. So I thought, how's it going? How's it going in Portland? So we've got the Seattle Times here. Portland, repelling its current citizens, is Seattle's cautionary tale. Portland has switched from attracting new arrivals to repelling its current citizens, one news outlet wrote in the past week. In Portland, many Liberals are dodging stray bullets, losing catalytic converters to thieves, and sidestepping tents. Then they open their tax bills. Quote, everybody hates Portland. Headlined a harsh roundup, which quoted local congressmen saying, Portland is broken. And this came from the Willamette Week, from the Willamette Valley in Oregon. Portland is losing some of its biggest fans, and it's basically saying a conservative is a liberal who's been mugged. So that's how it's going in Portland. They were first, and they've seen a huge catastrophic failure in creating communities and all the things that this is talking about. And they were doing it not for people, they were doing it for CO2 and the global warming myth. So it shows that when cultural Marxists take control and they get to drive things forward without being questioned, without being held to account, the destination can often be not as advertised.
Yes, okay, thank you, David. Now,